Let me ask you something selfishly. So let's say I have a screenplay that I think is great.
I hate it. I hate it already. Haven't heard anything about it.
I think it is fantastic.
Great.
I've been working on it forever.
Yeah.
I think I have it outlined enough.
Yeah.
And then I sit down to write it and I'm like, there's not enough I can't fill these pages.
Yeah.
Do you ever run into that issue where
into it? I live it.
It runs into you.
Yeah, 100% head on. Every time I have, the fear that that there's not enough there, that even though I've done it countless numbers of times before, that somehow this time I will never make it to the end.
Yeah.
And then there comes a point when you're writing, so you just have to sit down and do it. And even if it's, I hate when people say this because it's probably not going to be bad anyway. I'm sure it's like, going to be pretty good, but you just have to fight through it. And then there comes a point, and it's different every time, where I go, this is something. And until that point, I really am writing from like a place of fear. Like, I have no idea how many pages there are. Like, how does it almost always turn out to be roughly the right number of pages? Every time, like I think that I'm not unique, because I'm sure there's a lot of writers who think about it this way, but I think you can find yourself, particularly in broadcast TV, people think about it like math, right? Or they think about it like there are answers and solutions, and there are. For me...
That's what I want.
Oh, that's what you want? I don't. For me... I hate thinking about it like, oh, we're smart people, we'll figure it out. Sure, some writers are smart, like, of course, but like it is like also like a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
And I like to think, whether it's true or not, that there's some like magical element involved. And every time I finish a script, I am shocked that I got to that point. And every time I start a script, I think the last one was a complete joke. I don't know how you even pulled the wool over everyone's eyes, and how are you going to do this one? And I live in that fear.
That's
and
amazing.
I don't know. I don't know another way.
That's amazing.
Do you know another way? You may have figured out a different way.
I'm crippled by fear because I like what you're saying, but I feel like I have it outlined. I assume you outline it. And then you start typing
Not always.
Okay. Well, then you start typing it and you're running into that fear. But I feel like I start typing it and I'm like, there's literally not enough here.
Yeah.
And then I stop and then I get discouraged because I just see that there's not going to be enough.
I will say this again. This goes back to what I was saying about like I like to believe, whether it's true or not, or I'm creating it on my own. There's like this magical mysticism thing, and I'm just sort of like finding it. And there's like these moments for invention and creation, and like solving a problem on the fly or coming up with something that wasn't in your outline. So I'm developing a couple projects right now where they're buyers, so I have to deliver outlines. They're not cool with the way that I normally would work.
Right.
But on my own, I don't ever outline. If I was writing something for myself, I would not outline.
How does that work? What do you do then?
That process that I was talking about before, where it's like spending weeks thinking about the story, at that point, I probably have, if I'm doing broadcasts and there's an act structure, in my mind, I probably have outlined the first 2 acts. So I kind of know what it is. And then once I get that down, then it's like I feel like I've understood.
It's an outline, but it's not an outline.
It's not an outline because I get hamstrung with the outline because then it's like I feel like, well, I've already written it. I haven't put everything in there. So why would I put it down on paper in outline form, which isn't the most interesting to me?
Right.
Because then I feel like I'm just a typist.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense because I created that part too. But you know what I mean? Like it's in my head, and then it gives me the freedom to be like, anything could happen. Anything could change versus like sometimes I feel like with an outline, I'm like, well, this is what it is. And this is what they've agreed to. So this is what I have to deliver. And I lose a little bit of like the feeling that I'm coming up with something fresh and that anything could possibly happen on the page.
You said you don't like to formula it, but then you break it down act structure, and I think you kind of are formulating it.
I mean, I have no choice because I've worked in network TV and it's
but that helps, I think. I mean,
certainly it helps to have like a guideline of some kind, but at the same time, I think we didn't start writing. I mean, we were. Now we're getting into shit. I'm just going to keep contradicting myself. You just sort of probably the first thing you wrote, you just wrote something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who knows what it was, right?
Yeah.
Like you just did it.
Right.
But chances are that thing probably had some structure to it, whether you knew it or not.
Right.
Like people know how to tell stories. My mom doesn't know about 5-act, 6-act structure. She doesn't know about 3-act structure. She doesn't know about 7 sequences. She doesn't know anything. But if she's telling a story, there's a structure to the way she tells story. Like this has been happening, and I think that people understand a beginning, middle, and end usually.
Right.
And this is just me being stubborn. I kind of bristle at the idea of like let's give them names and let's call it this, or is that a flashback, or is it a vision, or is it a, what is this class does it fall into? And it's like, I don't know, it just is.
So
that was the worst answer I've
no,
ever
it's
given
not.
to anything.
No, it's not. It is very ethereal. Ethereal. It is very ethereal, so it is hard to articulate, especially when it's something you've ingrained in what you do. So
Yeah.